Satoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Satoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Satoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Satoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya.
Again, what we're always contemplating is that life itself is God. Life is God. Life is God. Life really doesn't need anything else. You know, if you might ask, where does life come from? I might ask, where does God come from? So if you have to say, well, God created everything, well, who created God? There is no effect without a cause. So life creates everything. Who created life? Everything we know about life is cyclical, and I'm willing to leave those other questions as a big mystery rather than to conjure up a fantasy, a pure fantasy about that. So we honor the mystery, and we focus on this in-your-face reality, the incredible majesty and splendor, the incredible mystery that my life is, that your life is, that all life is, the charisma of life. So this is the only thing we're contemplating here. And everything that we say comes back to the unity and the divinity of all life. So we begin by contemplating. We use these icons from ancient India, and the icons are, each one is a veritable page of an encyclopedia that date from a time where many people perhaps were not literate, and these icons communicated many of the aspects of the culture and embodied the dynamics of insight and understanding and wisdom. So we move to the goddess Saraswati. And whenever we have a goddess, we're talking, a goddess always embodies the manifest power, the Shakti, nature, creation herself. And here we are looking at a goddess that, whose name Saraswati means essence of self. That this goddess that we see portrayed here symbolizes and points to the essence of ourself. And what is that essence? That is that intelligence that rides on the paramahansa of the swan of the breath. That there is an intelligence that rides, whose vehicle is the breath, and that is the incredible mystery and majesty and splendor of the creative intelligence of life. So life's vehicle is this breath, and life's nature is to unfold its creative potency. So this goddess personifies these forces and perhaps points to a transcendental intelligence that rules these forces, who we can conjure up. In any case, our focus on this goddess allows us to elevate our consciousness and focus our consciousness on our own divine potential and our own creative potential. So we begin our journey of contemplation with invocation of the goddess essence of self. And we chant her majestic name, surrounded by the bija mantra. Again, in the wisdom of the ancients, everything is sacred sound vibration. Everything is conscious sound vibration. That the stuff of the universe is this breath of life, and this breath of life, nature is vibration, and this vibration is sound, is music, is praise. So that when we focus on praise, we become the very essence of the universe, the very essence of life, the very essence of the goddess. And here we use the bija mantras, which are the quintessences, the highest essences, which manifest these divine qualities of Om, the ascension, expansion of energy, cosmic being, an invocation of the seed of creation. I'm the Shakti, the feminine, the primordial power, sound that gives intention and motivation, direction and willpower to that Om that gives manifest power. Shreem adds grace to that. Shreem invokes the goddess with all the feminine qualities of devotion, of faith, of refuge, of beauty, of wisdom. Hrim, again, is a way of invoking the manifest, the Shakti, the physical expressions of the divine as magic and captivation, as all the empowerment of the feminine, the charisma, the inherent charisma of the feminine. So let's join Mother Karuna Ma, Mother of Compassion, as we invoke our own inherent divinity. I've really spent my whole adult life contemplating psychology, searching first in psychology and then in spirituality for some way to deal with this pain, this suffering, these bad states of consciousness that seem to afflict us and be so central to the human condition. Even people with the most comfortable physical environments and the most secure and abundant, affluent physical environments seem to be afflicted by emotional pain. And it seems it's never been any different. And over the years, as I've tried to understand these things through psychology and then later through spirituality, I've come to believe that the pain that we're in is caused not biographically or not psychologically, but psychospiritually. That the pain that we're in is caused by a separation from being, a separation from our inherent divinity, and a disconnect from nature herself, which is our own sacred life, which is our own body. That when we get swept up in our mind and disconnected from our inherent nature, and it's incredibly painful. First of all, because this is our very self. The stuff, the energy, that your cognizance, your presence, your lucidity, your awareness is the actual substance of all creation. That the only thing there is in creation is this incredible energy of life. And the movement of this life creates the fields, creates the forms, and these forms are a constant feedback mechanism. This feedback mechanism we call consciousness. This feedback mechanism we call intelligence. This feedback mechanism we call your cognizance, your presence, your awareness. So in the macrocosm, you are awareness. Everything else changes, but you are this awareness. But on a molecular level, the same awareness is the product of life moving at the speed of light to sustain the atoms and molecules and cells, the organs and all the organic processes that underlie life, that life is a fabric of intelligence. So I guess it takes a certain measure of stillness, a certain measure of coherence, a certain measure of peace to commune with yourself and to tune into yourself and to receive the wholeness and the blessing which is your inherent nature. And this is one of the reasons why I keep promoting a sattvic lifestyle. Again, sattva is being, and we're saying the pain of life arises from a disconnect from being. So that every element of that every atom of your body is essentially a well to being, and as you promote coherence through your lifestyle, this being is charismatic, and eventually your mind will be just entrained with the source and entrained with being in a place of lucidity and peace. So the reason we do any and all of these spiritual practices is to foster this soul communion, this communion with being, and to affect this molecular transformation, this cellular transformation, and in this macrocosm, this constant communion with the ecstasy, the auspiciousness of our inherent state, our natural state of communion with being. So, what we come to understand from the ancient wisdom of India is that what is here is everywhere, and what it is that is here is the present. And what is not here is nowhere, because whatever isn't the present doesn't really exist. It's just transitory. It's just an appearance within. So our goal is to abide in reality rather than in the fictions of our mind, the passing show of our mind and emotions. So once again, we affirm an intention to live in reality. Our affirmation is to move from the unreal to the real, from the shadows of our mind into the self-effulgence of the light of consciousness, from the terror of death and oblivion into the reality of the nectar of immortality, that the soul communion is a tasting of the nectar of immortality. And this is our natural state, to be nourished by this nectar of immortality. And the doorway to this sanctum sanctorum is inner peace. All the things that give us inner peace, all of the detachment and divine love, loving nature, loving the mystery, loving the goddess, loving our own divine self, which is the way to this inner peace. The most precious thing I've accomplished in this life is the realization that life is God, unborn, undying, everywhere, always, eternal, forever and ever and ever. You and I are flowers and fruit on this mysterious and majestic tree of life. While we blossom and fall, this tree of life is eternal, unborn, undying, everywhere, always, forever and ever and ever. I realize that all life is sacred, each life a spark of the eternal flame of this universal life. That you and I personify an instant of the unfolding of the creative potency of life. You, your presence, your cognizance, your awareness exist in the eternal present. Everything unfolds, but your consciousness is right here and now, eternal, unborn, undying, everywhere, always, forever and ever and ever. The same consciousness is the presence, the lucidity, the cognizance, the self of every living, breathing being, a universal life, a singular consciousness in all being. Bodies, as all of nature, are born and die, but the self, the presence of life in all beings, is unborn, undying, everywhere, always, forever and ever and ever. That the one life is eternal. We're born in freedom. We are born in freedom. That life is a self-organizing intelligence, born in freedom. Each living organism in creation is fundamentally recursive, a feedback loop, taking in its experience to self-correct in the next breath. That each of us are free to create our lives. We're born in this freedom. This recursive dynamic is the very definition of consciousness. This ability to integrate experience into expression is an essence of intelligence. Each organism is free to adapt and self-create its niche with its environment. And I think that's why we're so passionate about freedom, is because it's molecular, it's cellular, it's fundamental to our birthright, that every organism has within it the gift of freedom, the ability to carve out its niche, to create its niche, and to work to remove the conditions that inhibit the fullness of its life. It's really profound for me that one of the most fundamental aspects of our nature is that we were born free, and that we have within us the potential to create a heaven right here, right now. Every natural process can be seen as a field cycling from source to periphery in a feedback loop. God is not some crusty old patriarch hovering over us on a heavenly cloud frisbee, but a free and dynamic intelligence in every living quark of creation. All creation is a living, breathing, conscious being. You and I are tuned into a small spectrum of vibration that's just about as much as we can handle. So that's where I've gone so far with my thinking. I hope you find it useful to join me in contemplating this realization that life itself is God, that life doesn't need any other story. Any other story is actually a distraction, because what the world needs to understand, that all life is sacred, that nature is sacred, that nature is the body of God, and deserves to be treated with that kind of love, deserve to be cherished, with that kind of respect and understanding. And any other story is so tiny in comparison with the reality of nature. Any other story is so incoherent compared to the majesty and splendor of nature. Just really, really amazing feat that we can be brainwashed into this denial. In any case, this life is breathing us, Brahma, the ever-expanding life, Brahma, the manifest quality of the mystery, is sharing he, she, her life with us. And the Shakti of Brahma is often personified as the goddess Gayatri, that her 5 heads represent the 5 Vayus, the 5 winds, the 5 elemental keynotes that vibrate through everything as the oneness unfolds into the majesty and splendor of this creation. So here we're focusing on each of the centers in our body. Om Bhur at the earth, Om Bhuvaha, bring your consciousness to the sacral lumbar juncture. Om Om Suvaha at the solar plexus. Om Mahaha, we bring our attention to the heart. Om Tapaha to the throat. Om Gyanaha to the third eye. And Om Satyam at the crown.
Om Bhu Om Bhuva Om Swaha Om Maha Om Jana Om Tapa Om Satyam Om Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Apo Jyoti Rasomritam Brahma Bhurbhuva Swaro.
We dedicate our efforts to a vision of a springtime of humanity, where all humanity makes a leap in consciousness and realizes the unity and divinity of all life, where we cherish our Mother Earth as our own dear mother, where we share with each other as brothers and sisters. For all our relations, Ahom and Takwyasan. Well, thank you very much for joining us once again. God is blessed. Namaste.
Let the grace of God bless man and every woman in this land. Stay strong, keep your faith alive. Whatever comes to meet us, know the darkness won't defeat us. Stay strong and keep your faith alive. Some say the end is coming, to set our souls running, but I say, stay strong and keep your faith alive. Let's all come together, take care of each other. Stay strong and keep your faith alive. Raise your hand